Okay, so now we're going to take a look at our second game plan. And again, like I wouldn't end up with this game plan as my final game plan because it, like I said, I don't think the melody really suggests it, but it's a standard way to go in blues tunes. So let's take a look. So if we were going to play just the main chords, minor pent, we'd have that 1, minor 3, 4, flat 5, 5, flat 7, 1. Okay? The pent is the 1, 3, 4, 5, 7. The main blues note is the flat 5. B flat, D flat, E flat, F, A flat, F flat for the main blues note. Looks like an E on the piano. Okay? So, the problem with the minor blues is once you start going down the minor blues route, especially if you kind of start with it in the beginning, it's weird. It's like it's almost got more gravitational pull than the major blues, in my opinion. So like once you start using it, it's kind of hard to go back to the major. Not that you can't, but to me that it's a tougher route. Whereas if you start with the major, you can dip into the minor and then go back to the major. To me, that kind of works better. But if you start with the minor, it's kind of hard to get out of it. Okay, so again, not the one I would choose in the long run, but nothing wrong with it. Okay, so that was just a real rough pass through the progression using that minor pent scale. And of course it works and it's a valid scale choice, but like I said, it doesn't really reflect the melody at all. I wouldn't choose it, right? So that takes us to our next game plan, our next approach, which to me would be maybe to mix some scales up and to have them kind of reflect the melody at least a little bit. Okay, so since the melody tends to have a lot of the D natural when we are on the one chord, one obvious solution would be, well, we could play the major blues over the one chord, and maybe we play the minor blues over the four chord. That is one of my generally favorite approaches to playing over a blues jam because of the fact that if you look at the four chord, its flat 7 is the minor third of the overall one chord or the overall key. Okay, so what that means is, you're definitely not fighting things when you shift to the minor pent over the four chord as much, right? So if I play like major, minor, that can work, okay? But there's yet a further caveat. So it just depends on the speed of the song. But for a faster blues progression, I don't really tend to go to the minor blues over the first four chord. So say if the progression is 1 4 1 1 4 4 1 1 for the first 8 measures, I would say why not stick to the major blues over the first 4 measures and shift to the B flat minor blues when you have 2 measures of the E flat. You have a little time to settle into it. And if it was like a slower blues, then it might make more sense to go major, minor, major, major, minor, minor, major, major. But if it's a faster blues, there's nothing wrong with sticking with the major blues over the first 4 chord, but then when it comes back the second time and you have 2 measures of it, that's a good time to do something else. One thing would be to go to the 4 chords major blues, and the other thing is to go to the minor blues of the main key. Okay? So here we go. So if I have okay, so that's like the first 8 measures. I shifted between for 4, minor for 2, back to major for 2. Okay, so that's something to work out for the first 8 measures. So then what about the 5 chord? If we're starting to do this game plan where we shift, okay, well, for sure you could go to the minor blues over the 5 chord. So that's another option. So if we want to keep it relatively simple, we could also play the minor blues over the 5 chord, okay? So the 5 chord's got the E flat in it, which, you know, that's in the minor blues, but it's not in the major blues. But on the other hand, the 5 chord's got the A natural, which is not in either of them, but it's certainly not a minor sound. So it can go either way, and there's other things we can do as well. But let's say for this game plan, we'll explore the option that we play major blues for the B-flat major blues for the first 4 measures, B-flat minor blues for the 2 measures of the 4 chord when they're back to back, and also we'll play the minor blues over the 2 measures of the 5 chord, okay, and then we'll go back to the major blues at the end. Okay, so this is our 3rd game plan, okay? So let's check that out. Okay, so pretty rough, but you get the idea. Working through, whenever we have the 1 chord, we play the major blues, and then when we have the 2 measures of the 4 chord, when we have the 2 measures of the 5 chord, we switch to the minor blues. Okay, so we can explore that on whatever instrument we've got as a valid game choice. Okay, so if you had a chance to work on that, we can kind of move on to the last idea that I want to explore for this. And again, there's always going to be more ideas. There's Dorian scales that work, you know, in random ways. There's like Mixolydian scales. There's always going to be more. But let's just check out one last idea, which is in this type of tune where the melody itself isn't like super dark and minor, you have the option to go to the major blues of the 4 and 5 chords. That's another valid choice. So for example, when you have the E flat chord, you could go to E flat, F, G flat, G, B flat, C, maybe with a D flat thrown in there. And then when you go to the F chord, you could go to the F major blues, F, G, A flat, A, C, D, F, maybe with the E flat. Okay? So that is another valid choice. So if we did the major, you know, blues per chord, again, it's kind of on the fence. Would you want to do it over the first 4 chord? You could stick to the B flat blues over the first 4 chord and save the E flat major blues for the second time you have the 2 measures of the 4 chord in a row. So let's check that out. Okay, so you can hear how that definitely works. It has a more upbeat sound because we're never dipping into that dark minor blues. We just stayed on that, you know, that majory sound, but we got to switch our scales up, which is kind of nice for variation, right? So one last thing for that last game plan, which is this. You can kind of circle around a certain area of the scale, and it makes things kind of nice. So if instead of, you can blast through the whole thing. But if you want to, when you're going to those 4 chords and 5 chords and you want to shift your scales up, one thing that works is kind of give yourself like a little mini version of it, where you concentrate on maybe like the minor third, major third, 5 and 6, and maybe the flat 7. And then when you go, in that case, G flat, G, B flat, C, D flat. And then when it's time for the F chord, same thing. Concentrate on a mini version of the major blues. A flat, A, C, D, E flat, maybe the F. Flat 3, 3, 5, 6, minor 7 if you want. So when you go to the E flat, it's kind of a nice way to go. So you can find those positions in whatever scale shape you're using for guitar or on the piano. It's really easy. You're in these little mini positions that I think make life a little bit easier if you're trying out a more advanced game plan. Okay, so taking all that into consideration, are there more choices? Absolutely, there's always going to be more choices, right? But we've already covered a bunch. Major blues over the entire progression. Minor blues over the entire progression. The major and minor blues of the main chord, the main key, B flat. Then we had the idea of switching between the major and the minor blues over the points where we had 2 measures of the 4 chord, and then when we went to the 5 chord, the 2 measures of the 5 chord, that's when we chose to switch to the B flat minor blues. Okay, so that worked. Okay, so that's 3 game plans right there. Then our 4th game plan, which was a more major sound, was to keep it at major blues the whole time, but shift our major blues to the current chord. Maybe not in the first time we go to the 4 chord since it's brief, but maybe we do, right? So if you could, you absolutely could. So you can play around with that 4th game plan of keeping it all major sounding, but shifting our major blues scales per each chord, okay? So I think that's quite a lot, and it's a big introduction to playing over these blues tunes. And again, I'm not the master of blues piano or anything like that, but it's the concepts I'm trying to teach. The coordination is a bear, and I'm much stronger myself personally with like a ballad style approach because frankly I think it's easier, right? So that shuffle pattern and soloing at the same time, that's a whole specialized thing. So if you're a piano player and you want to do the whole enchilada of playing both parts and you haven't done it before, just realize it's not easy for most people, and it's going to take a while to get the coordination. Different shuffle patterns might be easier or harder for you. There's so much stuff going on in terms of the rhythm and all that. So again, that's not what I'm here to teach today, or necessarily to even be a perfect example of. I'm here to teach the concepts, how to look at a song, understand what's going on, and what our scale choices are. Okay? How you end up practicing that as whatever instrumental that you got going on, if you're a guitar player or whatever. We can dig in more depth. You can reach out to me. You can check out the website, especially if you are a guitar player. I go into a lot of depth on scale positions and shapes and things. But this is all concepts, right? So I just want to leave you with the last idea that is by no means the end of it. Because again, over the B flat chord, you could play the shifting Mixolydian scales, B flat Mixolydian to E flat Mixolydian, right? Even if it's just to do something like sixes or something, right? And then you could do that per chord, right? That's a whole other idea. Dorian scales work. So I could play like a B flat Dorian. It's a little specialized. But that could happen because it's like a blend of major and minor sounds at the same time. So there's always going to be more to do, right? Even within the game plans that we came up with, you could have mixed and matched some of the ideas over different points in the progression. So again, my teaching approach is understand all your choices, realize how limitless they are in combination, and then give yourself a plan so that you're not overwhelmed, but you're also not just putting your head in the sand and avoiding exploring them. So a game plan is what makes it doable, right? If you decide, you understand how things work, and you decide to explore this option, then you explore this option, and you explore that option, right? And the truly, truly greats, they do on the fly explore all these different options whenever they feel like it, improv style. But it's only because they've explored each game plan by itself first that they can then mix and match things more easily on the fly, right? So to get there, that's a big, tall order. If we can just get through game plans, then we're doing all right, because you can put things together in live performances and recordings that are going to sound good if you understand your choices. You don't limit yourself to just one choice, but you kind of are open to a few different choices, and you know how to explore them, right? So that's what this is all about. And again, today's lesson, very, very different for us. It was like the opposite side of the spectrum because we went whole straight up blues instead of a diatonic tune. So now that we've kind of covered those two extremes, we're going to keep going with other songs and look at them and kind of figure out how they're built and what scales are therefore appropriate to play over them. Well, we're going to have a good foundation. We understand diatonic, we understand blues, and then you'll see a lot of the other songs that we're going to cover. They're going to be in the middle. Sections will be reflective of more of a blues approach. Sections will be reflective more of a diatonic approach. So I hope that you had fun today, guys. And again, if anything, reach out to me if you have any questions. You can write me, you can hit the contact link on fromjoetopro.com and email me directly. You can check out the material on the site. Say hi. I also have a fromjoetopro.com, From Joe to Pro Facebook page if you want to check that out. So anyways, guys, I hope that you're getting something out of the concepts I'm trying to share here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Thanks a lot.